Welcome to the HERHealth podcast, transforming health for women and girls at risk, where we empower women and girls to take charge of their health and well-being. Join us as we shine a spotlight on issues affecting women and girls' health and explore ways to create positive change. Get ready to be inspired and empowered as we discuss health, advocacy, and empowerment for women and girls at risk. Please be advised that this podcast may cover sensitive topics such as gendered violence. We understand that these discussions can be difficult to listen to. If you feel uncomfortable or need support, we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. Consider exploring our other podcasts if these topics are triggering for you. Resources can be found in the description.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's AVA HERHealth podcast. I'm your host, Jason Novick, AVA Webinar Coordinator. Today's episode focuses on environmental research, Indigenous knowledge systems, and the importance of community-centered approaches to research and climate justice. Across Canada, conversations around environmental responsibility are increasingly recognizing the need to move beyond traditional research models and towards approaches grounded in relationships, reciprocity, and Indigenous self-governance. Research conducted within Indigenous communities has often been shaped by histories of settler colonialism, exclusion, and extractive practices. As a result, many scholars and community leaders are calling for more ethical, participatory, and land-based approaches that honor Indigenous knowledge, storytelling, and collective responsibility for future generations. Today, we're joined by Dr. Ranjan Datta, Canada Research Chair in Community Disaster Research and Associate Professor of Indigenous Studies at Mount Royal University, and Dr. Kevin Wâsakâyâsiw Lewis, a Plains Cree instructor, land-based researcher, and founder of Kaniyashik Culture Camps. Their work focuses on Indigenous land-based education, decolonizing methodologies, environmental justice, and community-led research practices. And in today's conversation, we'll explore what responsibility in environmental research truly means, how Indigenous perspectives challenge conventional research systems, and why relational and land-based approaches are essential for creating more just and sustainable futures. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us, and then look forward to the podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for your excellent webinar presentation recently on responsibilities in environmental research. And your webinar emphasized responsibility in environmental research. And I'm wondering from your perspectives, what does responsible research truly look like in practice?
I think I don't mean to go first, but I'll just start, I guess. In terms of like my focus would be highlighting the different protocols that are out there in the communities. I had the chance to go coast to coast to coast just this past year and I was recording people and I was recording interviews, specifically the Indigenous languages. And it is so diverse, right from from the Atlantic coast to central Canada, and then also going to the Pacific coast and everything in between, and the north as well. We've got a lot of different learning styles, learning protocols, developing those relationships. And I think it's the relationship as a researcher and then as a person from those communities, when we want a relationship or research done, we're sort of committing kind of like you have to develop it as a resource, a relationship, not not end when the resources are dry or when the timeline is done. I think that's probably like generally sort of like where I would start with that one.
Yeah, for me, responsibility I see as a opportunity. responsibility, when we are thinking about researcher like me in Canada as a settler of scholar from as a racialized immigrant scholar in Canada, responsibility gave me opportunity to create belongingness with the land and the people. So responsibility is open the door to understand who I am and who I need to be as a researcher, as a person, as a citizen of this country, and also guest of this land. So I see responsibility creates lots of opportunity for me to understand how we can transform our research or the work we are doing into action for me personally, to see the beauty and to see how the solution come from various perspectives and how we can work together. Actually, how we should work together. It's not a choice there. That I have a choice to be there or work, transform my work or not. It's a responsibility to think, no, this is the obligation that we have to transform our work in a way we are protecting our the land, water, and our future generation. So when we are talking about responsibility, it has many meanings to me as a settler of scholar, to understanding the land that I came from in my back home Bangladesh as a minority land-based person, how land has been polluted, how land base has been taken away when we came here to secure life, to understanding how the colonial history of Canada has been doing similar colonization at the or more extreme, to understanding this environmental pattern from different two parts of the world. It's helped me to create belongingness. It helped me to take the responsibility for the water, the environment that we are living.
Thank you so much for sharing both your important perspectives on what responsible research truly looks like, and specifically that your responses have led into the next question I have, specifically with my inquiry about how have settler colonialism and traditional academic systems historically shaped relationships between researchers and Indigenous communities.
Yeah, I think in terms of what we're like, there's for the researchers, and I think the first wave probably would have been the maybe the ethno-linguists, whatever they were, through churches or through the explorers. They really studied the language. And then that's my research is language. And then when we start talking language, we start talking about like the connections that we have to the elements in English. They call them the elements, but actually the language that we use, it connects us like kinship wise to like the sun. The sun isn't, the sun is understood as a grandfather. The earth is understood as a mother of for all of us, human beings, things that fly, things that have four legs. So we're not on top, but we're actually a part of this complex web. So these ecosystems start becoming alive as kin and not subjects. And so that's the beauty of this. It's kind of like I know the study right now is sort of like, let's go study the different planets. Let's maybe potentially go to Mars and stuff like that. But um, the, with the kinship model, I think it's like we're just borrowing, this little bit of time that we're spending on this earth together, but like conservation is a huge part of this. And then when you're related to somebody, there's protocols. Let's just say, like, if you want to disrespect your parents, well, your parents are the ones that brought you here. And then your grandparents, are you going to disrespect them? Because that's like kind of like your line and your lineage, right? So it's the same thing with your kids. Like, if you have children that are disrespecting you, that doesn't feel very good. And then especially your grandchildren. And then so those learned behaviors, they can, if they're disruptive or not constructive in any other way, we have to build that in. We have to teach those different models. And sometimes some of these models, they're so old that they're new. And even in the academia where Dr. Datta and myself work, and yourself, of course, right? We're constantly learning. We don't know everything, but that's the beauty of research, is you're forever growing, right? And you're forever learning from mistakes, and then maybe it'll lead to other forms of understanding, and then to develop those relationships that, especially like this year. Here's a timestamp to this summer. We just finished El Nino. La Nina is coming this summer. So we could look at the data that's out there to figure out, okay, what should we prepare for? We have technology. We've never shied away from technology, but how can we do better in the world right now in terms of a real, supposedly, like, I remember the last La Nina, it was a little warmer, but how is that going to affect us? How is that going to affect people on the other side of the world? And then I think I said this at the other podcast as well. It was like, we got to figure out a way to also think locally, or act locally and think globally. I think that's how it was. And again, it's such a, like, one of those it's one of those quotes that I don't know where I heard it, but it's so brilliant, and it still fits today. Yeah, so I'll send it off to Dr. Datta.
Well, thank you, Kevin. The settler colonialism or traditional academic, I see how it is embedded within our education system, within our the way we understand the meaning of education is still very actively alive in our current education system. For example, settler colonialism, what is actually is alive, because they not only taken the language or the other knowledge. What they did, they colonized the meaning of research. They colonize meaning of research, meaning of development, meaning of the solution. In a way, it can make profit maximization for other people. So if you look at the meaning of research, it has been actually in indigenous community, local community, they have been using the meaning of research for millions of years. Even the meaning of development, meaning of the science, these are all the terms that we are talking about. The people have been using it. That's why the world was very sustainable, just only 2,000 years of settler colonization. So in settler colonization, the problem is not is very connected with our previous question. It's not seeing the responsibility, it's seeing research or knowledge or science as a profit. That's why Maori indigenous scholar Dr. Linda Smith, she said research is a mosquito, suck your blood then live. In my research, the community that I work in, Bangladesh indigenous community, they say this foreign bird. They take your knowledge and afterwards they call it innovation or discovery. It's basically stealing the knowledge, because knowledge always belong to the land, belong to the people, those who are living in the land. So settler colonialism, when I'm thinking, is not responsibility there, of course, but it's also it's a process. It's not an event. It's a process to claiming or stealing knowledge, the other people's knowledge as a property. And we have seen in the COVID example, we have seen the many industries, they found the solution, but they don't want to share it with each other, because they see it's a profit. If I share with them, other people, I will not get the profit. On the other hand, if you during the COVID time, we have the opportunity to go to the land with various indigenous elders and knowledge keepers. They wanted to share that knowledge. So in a way, we can understand the importance of that traditional or land-based science, and we can share with everyone. You see the difference between how profit maximizing science or solution or discovery we call, and the other hand, the indigenous or land-based meaning of science. So settler colonialism, we have to understand, is more deeply through structural in our institutional, is legal system, and also individual. So it's a structural issue. And on the other hand, land-based science, that or environmental land-based knowledge that we are talking, is universe, is a beauty, is a hybrid, is an open approach that helping us to understand how we can bring the solution together.
Thank you so much for both of your valuable insights regarding how settler colonialism and traditional academic systems have shaped relationships between researchers and Indigenous communities, along with your ideas for how to address the negative impacts associated with settler colonialism in this realm, and for going into further detail in addition to what you had mentioned during your webinar presentation. In addition, during your presentation, you both discuss land-based learning and storytelling as important methodologies, themes that you had mentioned earlier in this interview. And specifically, I'm wondering if you could provide more detail about why these approaches you believe are so powerful in research and education.
Yeah, I think I can answer this one as well. Well, to start part of it anyways, but I right now we're at Wâsakâyâsiw, and then we're doing demonstrations on hide tanning techniques. And then we've had probably, I'd say, 200 students that come through. And then a lot of those students, they're starting to look at their school systems. And these are all public schools so far that have shown up, and kind of scattered throughout the city. There's a school that's doing land-based programming, place-based programming, and then, of course, all the academic, that the province wants and stuff like. And then those are the subject areas that they're researching. Now, closer to home, back at Ganyasa culture camps, we have this water gathering, and then we needed to talk about water because it's sort of like one of the elements that we really, really need as human beings, and then the animals and everything else, right? We live right by a lake. And this was brought up by one of the elders, was like, how do we keep this lake healthy? How do we keep this lake from SAGD drilling, which is happening in Alberta, and parts of Saskatchewan and all over the world. I'm sure there's other SAGD types of drilling and oil and gas. I'm not I'm sure there's better ways to keep these lakes clean, and then I'm sure there's better ways to keep them, the fish that we eat, are they healthy? Is the aquatic life healthy? So we've had many different layers that have benefited from sort of like that, this research and this mandate and this push that came from our elders and knowledge keepers. And then so we've had scientists, we've had all sorts of environmental studies students, graduate students, PhD, postdoc students that have come there. And then with their expertise and the amount of years that they have spent in their fields, we're hanging out with them at the community level. So this is like Minnesota Lake Cree Nation in northern Saskatchewan, in the boreal forest. It wasn't that very long ago that we had cell service. The roads have always been, not the best. So it's kind of like a semi-isolated area, but in the same breath, we'll say it could be a very sensitive area as well because of climate change being, let's say, if it's too warm up north, and thank goodness, maybe prayer or maybe acknowledgement to water, or rain and the importance of it. Maybe that's what's been helping us, but that's what the elders say. And the elders will call them thunderbirds, the thunder beings. So if you acknowledge them in the waters, however this water cycle is circling, the science behind it, in our ways, if we continue to keep on giving those prayers and those ceremonies in that way, it somewhat kind of is keeping us safe. A little further north, not so much, because we were exposed to smoke. We had warnings, given to us by our phones to say stay inside because the air quality is not as good right now. So those like the fire bans that we see that are, there's more and more of them. So being outside with the knowledge keepers, and then when I say knowledge keepers, these are the ones that grew up hunting. These are the ones that grew up picking medicines. They grew up, berry picking, hunting, being out in the bush, So those are the ones that I call knowledge keepers, and then their knowledge keepers have taught them well through like a mentor apprentice style. This is kind of like the oldest form. We kind of do it, in a different way at the university, but still, it's the ones with the years of experience that become experts because of, the hours that they've dedicated to study, to their profession. So it's the same. I'm going to say same difference. And then what happens here is when we started mapping out somewhat, like we wanted to figure out how good is this lake? Like what's the state of this lake? Is it healthy? How are the fish? And then what they did there was with high school students, we went fishing. We brought some samples from there, some from the lake, and then the elders were there, and these young local potentially future scientists, they were working along with other different scientists that we brought in, and they were sampling and they were creating data, and it was really amazing to see old knowledge work together hand in hand with current ways of gathering data. It was so beautiful to see that. And then every year we're doing this gathering at Ganyasic culture camps. And you said it like actually really well. Thank you for that. And then so this Ganyasic culture camps is becoming a center of research where we can develop new young researchers, if they're doing their master's or graduate work. It's a place where they can come actually hang out with elders. How do you visit them? How do you behave? What are the protocols of the community? And then with Dr. Ranjan Datta and his team and his relationships that he's developed, it's sort of like they know how to create organic spaces of learning and sharing. And then so you kind of let it make it like you just stand back and like, whoa, that was awesome, And then one prime example I love talking about is like there was a tiny little circle that had happened, and then we kind of have a main stage by this 30-foot teepee, and then that's where the main presenters are, following the agenda and so on. And then on a side, you just saw this organic talking circle just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then afterwards, after the main talkers or speakers and keynotes were done, they kind of joined that circle because it sort of overtook, and it was just amazing because there was so much that was said there. And that's just like a prime example of things that organically happen when you allow them to. And then sometimes that's really hard for the Western side of like people that are like, okay, no, we have a schedule. These are the things that we're covering. And then if they go out of scope, or if they're not, these are outcomes that we want, sometimes that doesn't happen, but it will get there. But you just have to organically allow it to happen. So that's the beauty of sort of having those type of research gatherings. And then we're having our 7th one between July 27th to the 31st this year. So this will be the seventh year that we've had all sorts of different researchers, all different ages, getting together for a week.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those insights from your community. What are your thoughts, Dr. Datta?
Yeah, thank you. The land-based education is very critical for me particularly because land-based education, it doesn't separate between researcher, educator, and their learning object. For example, when we go to the land, we become relative. For example, Kevin explained the when Elder was talking about when knowledge keeper is talking about. That means when we go to the land, it become our relationship with the land, plant, insect, animal, uh, everything together. So that's why land-based education is helpful for many perspectives. For example, mental health, physical health, and our learning is happening into everyday practice. So it's not that we have to come to the block classroom and do experiment. It's happening in the land-based camp that elder become teacher, and we as a researcher or we as a student or we as an educator become learner. So it's a whole world view is shifting other way that community have the opportunity to share their sustainable knowledge they have been facing for long time or the challenge that they are facing. So they become educator, they become teacher, our land become teacher, our plant become teacher, our birds become teacher, the water become teacher. So it become more relational and responsibility perspective, and understand we are the part of the as we as a human is one part of the all beings, we are not superior. There is the significant part of the land-based education, and that's why land-based education has been sustainable for millions of years of sustainability. Now we are facing lots of climate crisis, disaster, many things. We are looking for the solution, and many times people are talking about, oh well, our technology or our AI is going to solve the problem. Actually, not. Only land-based education, the land right, indigenous people, local people, land rights, their language right, their employment rights will actually protect the community. That's why land-based education center those needs and also challenge the colonial perspective that knowledge is a profit, knowledge is something we can sell. The land-based education challenge those perspectives. That's why land-based education is so critical. Well, Kevin, you and I are now. Jason is maybe joining. He got maybe internet connection option. Yeah. So land-based education, I think it is very helpful as a settler of color as well, because your camp or other camp that we are going there is not just we are going there. It's giving us opportunity to know who we are as a settler of color and how we need to create the belongingness. It's giving us the lots of opportunity to deep listen from the elder knowledge keeper and your knowledge, and give us opportunity to understand what is our responsibility to the land we are living on. Can you hear me, Kevin?
Hello, are both of you sorry about that? I do apologize how you got cut off. I apologize that I wasn't prepared, that my laptop had just died. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it hooked up to power again, so now I'm all back up and running, so I do apologize about that.
I think it's all good. It's recorded. So I
Yeah,
spoke a little
yes.
bit about land-based education. So it's recorded. So you don't need to worry about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll wait for Kevin to rejoin and then
Now
I
we
can
lost
resume
Kevin.
part two. Yes,
We have to wait for him.
of course. Okay, great. Hello, Kevin. Thank you so much. I do apologize about that, how both of you got cut off. Um,
Yeah, is Ranjan back?
Yes, I do
I
apologize
was
about
here.
that.
I was only one who didn't get kicked off. So all recorded. So it's fine.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay,
All
so I
right, good.
will. Thank you so much for your valuable insights regarding land-based learning and storytelling as important methodologies. And as it pertains to research methodology, I'm also wondering from your perspectives, what does it mean to approach research through relational accountability and deep learning rather than just extraction and data collection?
For research, I think we have a lot to learn, I think, or to adjust. And then it's sort of like tweaking the methods that are out there already. When we're indigenizing like research from my like the type of research that we're doing at Garnasic, we have different nationalities, people from like international researchers, and then of course national and homegrown researchers. And I think that capacity is so I'm just gonna call it like amazing when people from everywhere, all parts of the world, come together and they start talking about their stories from back home, and then how to be constructive and how to try to problem solve these interesting times that we're going through. And it's not like I'm not gonna say it's like a snapshot of like, oh, we're gonna figure everything out. It's like how to progressively problem solve this, so to act like family, to act like we are related, to follow those type of rules. And then of course I'm not and then with that said too, like we've had really good discussions, and we don't have to agree with everything, like everybody, here's an example. Some of the circles that happen, it's like if it's female focused and then female centered in terms of research and led by females, we're gonna just like step away. We have no business there in terms of myself as a man. I've seen that at our camps where the women just want to talk about their research interests, and then they have their own one-on-ones or talking circles, or they're doing it. You're seeing it. You're visibly seeing them sit, and then so you don't go in there and start interrupting. You just want to give them that safe place, and then to understand how hard it's been to find safe places like that where you can create um, research interests, like-minded people getting together and not having to look at an institution or not, or a building to say, okay, I'm on these grounds here. Like I've got to watch what I say. I've got to watch what I do. But it's sort of like a place where you can actually, like, if I'm a Cree researcher, I can sit there and I can actually do research in our language, and I can talk and engage with my uncles, who are knowledge keepers, who are elders, who are lodge keepers, right? Who hold key positions in not just our community, but a number of communities. So it's like creating those spaces were very hard to come.
Kevin, we cannot hear you. Well, while Kevin is coming back, the relational accountability is actually giving the opportunity to seeing the who is researcher, seeing who is the knowledge keeper, seeing who is the scientist for the community. Because in land-based education or land-based research is giving us opportunity to see how knowledge should belong to the people and knowledge should belong to the land, right? So deep listening, when elder talks, deep listening means listen respectfully and listen with the protocols, cultural protocols. That means is giving the opportunity to elders share the knowledge, not the whatever information we want to know according to our colonial research questionnaire. The elder bring the stories, and that story is connected with their everyday practice, connected with their how to solve their problem. So that's why deep listening is so significant method to understand the respectfully how land is as a science through the everyday practice. So it is creating the opportunity to knowing that we have a responsibility to protect that knowledge. One of the elder that when I was working in Fond du Lac, Dene First Nation elder, he said, I have been living. He was 97 years old when I met with him in 2014. He said, we have been living in this land for our many generations very sustainably. Now uranium mine came and damaged our land. We don't have fish. We don't have drinking water. And he said, we have been living with the lots of successful stories. And those successful stories are the solution to how to protect the land. And we, as a researcher, as a settler of color researcher, we have a responsibility to learn those stories and share those stories with our future generation so that we understand why that knowledge is important and how to protect it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for both of your valuable insights regarding approaching research through relational accountability and deep listening. So, an important theme of your presentation is that Indigenous knowledge systems are often excluded or misunderstood within mainstream institutions. I'm wondering what changes are needed from your perspectives to create more equitable and respectful research partnerships.
I think supporting them from, I guess, academia, whatever institute or university, just to have that support is like number one. And then that it's evolving right now. It's just kind of like I was saying like earlier, it's like it's at we're incubating something right now. It's at its infancy right now that we don't even really know what we have, but it's amazing even at where we've gotten it at the local level. So you have different levels of researchers that have shown up, and then that's and I'll say it like this: if you I think there's a saying, iron sharpens iron. There's another one. And then what I mean about that is like if there's like-minded people and they're asking like really amazing questions like you are right now, and then it sort of elevates the expectations. And you might even get more outcomes. Maybe there's something in there that you've never looked at from that perspective that might be the answer, or if there's a policy that's needed around sustainability of water, hanging out with those elders and having them hang out with these different scientists that are scientists in their fields, that takes samples from animals, hair samples. We've had archaeologists there. We had anthropologists there. We've had all sorts of different types of research that has happened there. And this is only like 7 years of actually opening it up to figure out how do we create these relationships, not just as one-offs, right? But to sustain, because there's such good questions on all sides. I think the collective is always stronger, and that's a strength when we're thinking about it as a collective rather than sort of like individual. That's an old teaching as well, coming from our our indigenous knowledge. They're always they're always actively telling us like behave as family, behave as a collective, behave as a community, because we all have to live here. We're not moving to Mars like right away. We gotta live together. So we gotta problem solve this, right? And then that's where it happens. And then when we invite speakers and when we invite researchers of all different fields, we've got people that study law. We have people that study all in all sorts of different professions. We open this place up, and then we get to hear and evolve along with them, because like all of a sudden we talked about AI seems to be on the headlines quite a bit, but it's like maybe it might have some answers, but then we still have to deal with it. It's here, it's reality, but how do we deal with it? And these are two terms that I just heard, right? These are becoming buzzwords. um Data sovereignty and data security. And I not that long ago, and then this is us kind of reaching out because of like you know the internet, the beautiful thing called internet. It's a tool that not that many people in the world have access to, right? So and then here we are, we're somewhat privileged because we can even use AI, this thing called AI, and the majority of the world, if you said artificial intelligence, they're like, what? What are you talking about that? Like, you're not speaking my language. But here, kids we're already seeing the policies and the rules within the schools saying, okay, well, it's here to stay, but these are the rules, right? And then they'll start developing policy along with their students. So that type of privileging, I think, is happening at the community level, but it's about relationships. How do we move forward with these new technologies? Is it too fast, or how can we adjust? How can we adapt? What can we adopt? I think that's where we're at as well. And then also, when you know the professions that are out there on the community level now, you bring all these professions into one area, all of a sudden, our people is like the capacity and the curiosity is at home now, and this is like, I'm talking about reserves, like First Nations, Indian reserves. Our kids aren't exposed to too many professions like this. A professor, what? You're a professor of what? No, all of a sudden you're on a human eye to eye. Somebody's not on a pedestal. You're like, they're really engaging. And sometimes, if you're we formally dress up when we're doing lectures and in that profession, but then out in a field, like, you're not going to wear a suit, man. It's muddy out there. I mean, we might get some rain. Put on a rain jacket rather than the formal dress. Put on some better footwear because it might get a little muddy out there, or slick, or take off those dress shoes and put on some flip-flops because it's so hot. Let's enjoy the sun. So those type of elements are coming into play as well. And then so that's the beauty and diversity and the complexity of it. And it's been so enjoyable, right? So again, I think I'd mentioned this. I don't know if it was one of the things that we'd cut out, but July 27th to the 31st, we're having our 7th water gathering. And then we always have themes, research, and water, women and water, elders and water, those type of themes. So we're still kind of playing with the idea of what this year's theme is, but we're always inviting people to come out, and it fills up fast as well because of the quality of people that are like, it's like an authentic experience. It's really amazing to sit with like knowledge keeper, that's a lodge keeper, that's an elder, that's bilingual. Some of them are trilingual, and then they wear many different hats, not just in our community, but communities, the surrounding communities. So there we have people like that are there, and we can have tea and coffee and meals with them, and it's like a 5-day gathering up in Minnesota Lake Cree Nation in Saskatchewan.
Thank you.
Yes. So, is first of all, I don't want to say it's misunderstood. It's intentionally excluded, intentionally misunderstood, because the indigenous knowledge is for everyone. Indigenous knowledge is coming from the community. Community, as Kevin was explaining, is coming from the elders, knowledge keepers, and the omens, right? So that's why it's intentionally being excluded, so that knowledge can be a profit, right? Knowledge can be something they can sell. On the other hand, land-based knowledge is for everyone. Land, we belong to the land instead of land belongs to us. So that's why it is not time for making balance. It's time for understanding which knowledge was sustainable, because we all are looking for the solution. AI is not going to solve the problem, but land can. Because land feed us, land giving us opportunity to learning, land giving us opportunity to heal. So it is opportunity, as Kevin was saying, is need support. It needs to understand science in different way. It needs to understand research in different way. It needs to understand development in different way. The development is not one species is occupy everything and undermine everything. Development means is co-living that indigenous people, land-based people have been doing for a long time. Understanding development means is knowing how land has been sustainable and which plant is important, how that plant helping us to live, how the fish is helping us to survive. So fish in that sense is a science. Fish in that sense is a scientist. So we have a responsibility to learn from the fish, learn from the elder, learn from the tree, learn from the insect. That land-based camp, land-based learning giving us the opportunity. That's why there is a no question whether we should do it or not do it. This is the responsibility. We should give more focus on land-based or indigenous knowledge, because this is the only solution that we have left.
And thank you so much for both of your valuable insights regarding the importance of creating more equitable and respectful research partnerships with your reference to contemporary trends such as AI and inequality with respect to access to AI, for example. So thank you so much for this. And along similar lines, I'm wondering that how can environmental research better support community capacity building and self-determination rather than simply studying communities?
I guess it's like for us, since we've started it, and then Ranjan can probably have the pulse on the world, the rest of the world, because of the connections and networking that he has. But locally, like just specifically, just in even Saskatchewan, we had brought this idea and this theme around water, and for us, right, and not just for us, because like we love our moose, we love our fish, and then all the different stories that have kind of emerged because of this interest that we have in good quality food. And then I don't know who doesn't want quality water, clean drinking water. I don't know anybody that says, no, I want to eat the polluted, meats or plants versus, the other. But um, when we brought a couple of different speakers just in Saskatchewan, um, one of the one of the elders in Treaty 4 territory, which is southeastern Saskatchewan, he'd come up, and then he was amazed at like how much fish we're eating, throughout the week, because they're told, no, you can't be eating too much fish because of the mercury and it's not good for you. And he went into depth of why. And then there was another person straight across, like towards the Manitoba border, which is the Delta region, and then how the river, because of the dams, how much it has fluctuated, and how unsafe it's become for them. And then this is something that was like, I understood exactly what that presenter was talking about, because we're considered almost like food deserts. I think that's the buzzword. And then, but you want to be careful who you say, this buzzword of food desert is. And basically what it is, like if you have a grocery store that's, X amount of kilometers away, they calculate that. So ours is a little ways. And so this is the term where we fit in. We categorize our place as a food desert. But if I had said that, just like there's no grocery store, because that's, and I said that to the best hunter, which is like one of my uncles or my late dad that was there, they probably would have gave me the stare, and they would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean this is a food desert? Go hunt, get off your behind, let's go get some food, you know, or to say, to my late grandpa was like, he just loved fishing. He was on the lake all the time. And then for me, like, I was very careful, never to call it a food desert, because like I know how to fish. I know how to do the harvesting and the storage of it, and I know how to conserve, because that guy was the one that trained me, right? And then so I was like kind of watching this, but I know the delicacy of this. It's very delicate. I mean, especially like for them when they needed to go to their the place where the fish were at that time. The lake was so, like, it fluctuated so much that it was like dangerous, that they were risking their lives cutting across a lake because of the drop of the lake because of the dam. So it was really like alarming. um so it was like these brand new two perspectives that we had gained, and these are just two of many. But also we had one guy that was there, and he come from West Bank, Kelowna. So I was just there, just talking to him, and I interviewed them, and then I was like, man, this place, it looks like a desert. And he's like, yeah, it's actually like considered classified as a desert. And then there's this huge lake, and then Kelowna, Penticton area, that valley. There's it looked like a pretty big lake, but here I just read like days ago that because of how dry it's been and the lack of moisture that they've had in the region, that they're in a panic state right now to conserve that water that they have, and already like it's May, it's not even June, July, August, like they got the summer to deal with that. So it's kind of like my prayers go out to them. Hopefully they can figure something out. But these are sort of like the what we have to deal with. That this is the reality that we have to deal with. Although it's like two, let's just say it's two provinces over. My daughter is over there. I've got two daughters that call BC home right now, and they're not very old, so it's concerning to me as a parent as well. So there's other things too, where anything in that general area, it concerns me as well, because my loved ones are over there too. My friends that I've made over the years live over there, you know. So it's these things really do matter, and then I think that's why, you know, that quote that I said earlier with you know, acting locally is really like, let's just not act like we've got to constantly work towards something here, right? We're not staying stagnant. We have to keep on moving and working and being constructive about it. And you might have a debate. You might have, you know, a good, solid discussion about something, but at least something is going to come out of it, right?
Yes,
Absolutely.
as Kevin explained everything details, my short response for capacity building for self-determination, the elder, they need to be recognized as a regular teacher, not only as a tokenization, invite one time or two times. Community need funding and understanding the land is a lab, support for the language, and transforming the education into the land, through the land and by the people. So it can create lots of opportunity, lots of possibility for both indigenous science and Western science.
Thank you so much for both of your valuable insights regarding the importance of how environmental research can better support community capacity building and self-determination, and bringing in aspects of your experiences. And specifically, Dr. Lewis, I'm wondering why you believe language is such an important part of environmental and cultural well-being, given that the work that you highlighted previously in your webinar presentation in Cree language revitalization and land-based education highlighted the connection between language identity and land. So I'm wondering if you could please provide more detail about why you believe language is such an important part of environmental and cultural well-being.
Yeah, and I think that last, you know, we can just focus on the well-being, right? I have a sister that's in healthcare. She works as a practicing, you know, a nurse at the community level, but as well as the nurse for a camp. But she's a speaker, you know, and in the home care that she is at, some of our elders, you know, they're there, and then when they're not feeling well, and they're Cree language speakers, right? And they have an ache, but they can't express that to somebody that's not speaking the same language. The communication is off. There is no communication. There's misunderstanding that happens. There's a misdiagnosis that is potentially there. Maybe that health, that well-being is not even, it's going the other way, right? And they start giving up a little bit. Maybe like, nobody understands me and nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me, you know? So there's a disconnect that happens. When the language is used, um, their eyes lighten up. Actually, sometimes, and this is kind of like the story, and I'm using this as an example of something bigger. But she'll, uh, those elders from our community that are in home care, in the elders' homes, or in the elders' homes, yeah, uh, they ask for my sister specifically because she understands what's going to make them feel better, because she's a language speaker, right? And then they can convey and talk and visit and talk about, you know, okay, what's the issue today? What can make things better? So it's the same analogy that you can use when we're in a land-based setting where we're at the community. It's sort of like, we're talking the frequencies of that area. We're talking the frequencies of water. We're talking the frequencies of those, you know, the water beings, the beetles, that the frogs that we're starting to hear now. the geese and the summer birds that are just starting to make things alive, right? So these are the places that I love to engage. And then when you start having spaces like that, and I've been to places where, like, you know, it's such a huge metropolis, a metro, like a city, that everyone's in this park, and then they're just sharing this small little park. I've seen places like that. Whereas in Canada, we have to kind of remind ourselves of this as well. Is like there's like things out there that people are really studying now, like in terms of grounding, in terms of cold plunges, in terms of the healing powers of water, clean water, and so on. We're very fortunate, I'll say, in Canada, of how much open space that we have, that we get to be around different seasons, right? That it's not warm and hot all the time, that you have a fall season, and then we have a winter season, and then we have the spring season that we're in right now, and then going into this the bloom. That's the I think that's the language. When we privilege the language, that's the beauty that we get to see. In Canada, for a lot of people, like a lot of people still don't know this. As Indigenous people here, we don't ask, like when we ask how old a person is, we're asking you, like, how many winters have you made it through, right? Like we know, all of us know how hard our winters are, but it's kind of like, it's kind of funny now, but really, like, it's like you earn those marks, like a badge or a medal, every year, every winter that you make it. And then this springtime, when you start seeing the blooms and we start seeing the little birds, um, it's a time for celebration. It's a time that we get to, not to relax and stop and, working, but it's like, man, we made it through. That was a tough winter. This one was a long one. This last one was a long one, right? So that's how we privilege the language. But we don't have, like, I'm a real advocate for, like, funding, because of that, because there's no funding there. So I think, like, research dollars, SHRC grants, provincial dollars, industry, because we gotta all live here together. But it's like, it's almost like so untapped, this area of research in terms of Indigenous knowledges. We have Nakotas. They have hardly any speakers. Lakotas, Dakotas. The Sioux, the Anishinaabe, they hardly have, or Soto, I should say, they hardly have any speakers. But there's an upswing, right? The Dene and the Cree. So we're very like, we're lucky to have that many different languages in these territories. But there's also a shift in the communities where a lot of the schools are saying, no, we're going to actually privilege one of the Indigenous languages of this territory, and that's what we're going to be sharing. Like, these are public schools and Catholic schools, so it is happening out there. But yesterday there was a local school. It was a public school, mostly like non-Indigenous students were there, but that's their model, is place-based, land-based programming. That's a local school in Saskatoon here, and I think there's two of them like that. So these are the ones, like, I'm at Wâsakâyâsiw Heritage Site right now, center, and then we're showing them high tanning, and they're fascinated. And then, yes, it's high tanning, but I'm like, you could be creating maybe a new doctor of some sort here. If you can show them what a skin looks like. Maybe there's a chemist here that we're creating, or a biologist, or a veterinarian that we could be producing here at this young age. And there are different ages. We've had students from as young as, I think, grade 6 yesterday, all the way to grade 8. Right. And I think there was a few, actually, there was one high school here. And then same talk. I'm like, I'm First Nation. I'm Cree from the north. Keep on going, because, like, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do at your age, but like we've got a university here. There's lots of universities that keep on going and educating yourself, that type of little push. Um, as far as outliers, and we're not supposed to talk about ourselves like this, but I'm not supposed to be here statistically. I'm supposed to be sick. I'm supposed to be maybe incarcerated. I'm supposed to be unemployed. I'm supposed to be all these different statistically not good in terms of places. I'm not supposed to have a career, those type of things. So it's really unique to have like I told him this. I said I'm thinking like I'm just watching my words on how I'm going to talk to you guys right now, and it was mixture. I said, what would I say to Kevin that was 15 or 16 years old? And I said, I never saw an Indigenous professor till I was maybe in my 30s. Never saw one. And then a Cree man, like, even specifically a Cree man to look at and say, holy smokes, there's a Cree professor right there. There's not that many of us, but we're trying to change that, right? We're trying to create that capacity that's needed. And then I'm a Cree speaker, that's my first language. And then if I can't understand a term, I'll fall back on that language and I'll say, okay, I'll turn to my grandmother or one of my uncles. I'll say, okay, how do you understand this? And then they privileged language, and all of a sudden, okay, there it is. I got it. Right. So it's language is very important.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your important insights regarding language and with reference to your community and your family experience. And finally, to sum up this conversation, I'm wondering from both your perspectives, for students, researchers, and organizations wanting to engage in decolonizing research practices, what is one important mindset shift or action you would encourage them to begin with?
Well, for me, the one of the mindset is two part. One is open the mindset to learning from various perspective. Of course, Western perspective is important, and also open mindset that learning from various elder knowledge keeper from the land is important. Another significant part is to take the responsibility. So the whatever we are doing is the land-based learning will not come automatically. We have to take the initiative. We have to take the responsibility. It's not for somebody else. It's for me. Yes, it's create lots of opportunity. So we have to take the responsibility to go to the community as Kevin was talking about his land-based camp in July. If there is opportunity, talk to Kevin and go to this kind of land-based camp, listen to the elders and see how you can see the useful of that knowledge to transforming your work. In a way it can be helpful for you and all helpful for the everyone else, and how we can come together. So it's open mindset and also responsibility, they go together.
Yeah, I think that's key is like if you've and it's just like anything else. If I'm unfamiliar with an environment, um, it's human nature to sort of like to study from afar, to kind of look at it and then maybe slowly engage whatever your style is and your personality is. But like it's kind of unique where we're actually developing this place where you can actually come in and sit with all these different researchers, right? And then creating that safe place and then finding out like how, because this is a lot of this type of, like I said, it's so new that there's some people that you can sit with and you can get mentored in a way in terms of what your research interests are, and then you don't kind of swoop in. You just become sort of like this like what would you say that? Like you're sitting around a campfire, and it's really like it's kind of like settings like that, or you're having a meal, and then you're just engaging and visiting, and then there's a way where you visit to a comfort where people start understanding and start respecting each other, and then if you want to go into business, in terms of like, okay, do you mind if we officially do some sort of interview and that engagement happens, right? So those steps, you can't really teach them in school or in the university. You do it in those settings, so we've created those places, and hopefully it's a model that's I'm starting to see in places like Star Blanket, in places like Cumberland House, so they're really starting to utilize those circles, and then also the importance of writing papers, the importance of sharing those stories, but also how do you share them where everyone's in agreement, right? Because there might be some things in there that could be really sensitive, that it could just belong in the community and it's for community. But those are the processes that you need to learn about, right? And that's the importance of having places like this where you can go in and then find out, okay, well, you have somebody in there that's been there since day one. You ask them, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm hoping. Do you think you can help? And then the mentorship happens right from the get-go. So it's good. Yeah, it's a good process, but I'm very glad that we have created this relationship with Dr. Ranjan Datta here and his wife, and you know, and then his team, the team that it kind of has gotten bigger because of that, right? So we're looking forward to that, and that's how you do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for both of your valuable insights throughout this conversation and sharing your important insights and personal experiences regarding responsibilities in environmental research and recommendations for engaging in such research, along with how to decolonize research practices with reference to settler colonialism and traditional academic systems, and overall your important insights and recommendations for environmental research to support community capacity building and self-determination among Indigenous communities. So thank you so much for both your time and for joining today for the AVA HERHealth podcast.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the HERHealth podcast, transforming health for women and girls at risk. Remember, your health matters, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, remember to prioritize your health and well-being. For more resources and support on issues affecting girls, women, and gender-diverse people, visit our website at avatraining.ca. This is Dr. Nicole Letourneau. Thank you for listening.